This is the Tapped In Podcast, the podcast for beverage distributors that want to empower their sales team to drive business results. Listen up and welcome back to another episode of the Tapped In Sales Podcast, your podcast for beer distributors by beer distributors. I'm here with Mikey, our master of metrics. I'm your nerd host, Bud, and we are here to talk about the Beer Business Daily, Beer Summit, and Wine and Spirits Summit from 2025. So just was this week in the warm, beautiful area of Palm Beach, Florida. We are just miles away from the epicenter of political power in the U.S. right now, right before President Trump takes office on the 20th. We're doing this on the 15th. So we've got 5 more days before Inauguration Day for Trump 2.0, Mikey.
Yeah, man. Welcome back from the far travel that you had to get over to the summit. What was that, 3 hours for you?
A couple hours, 2.5 hour drive. And I took the train. Sarah had to drive back, to worker bee herself. So I took the train back late on the Bright Line. For those Floridians listening, took the murder train. And we didn't hit anybody last night. Nobody got in any trouble. It happened without a hitch. So we were good. That thing does fly, though. Like it does.
Is that thing running around just hitting everybody or something? Why is it the murder train?
That's an inside Instagram, joke of one of the Florida Man Instagram handles I follow that the Bright Line train has a habit of clipping people from time to time. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Stay clear.
I'll let the listeners research that on their own so I don't armchair expert this too much by myself.
Yeah. Not only are we 5 days from Inauguration Day, we're right in the heart of the playoffs too, and we've our Lions are holding tough, man. We're looking forward to a big win this weekend.
I am holding my breath for their performance because it's more of like surreal that they're even here. If this isn't proof enough that we're in the wrong time warp and that the CERN particle factory in 2014, this is a conspiracy theory. Look it up if you want to. That was turned on once. It worked, but it shifted us time
from 14 to 25.
Not like that. Across different time parallel universes is what it would be called. And that we moved to a different parallel universe and we don't know how to get back. And that's why everything that's happened has happened. And now including the Lions are good at football.
Oh, man. I don't know if I have enough time in my life to get into reading something like that, but I might have to check it out.
Everybody should have a good conspiracy theory in their back pocket because I found the only way that you fight a conspiracy theorist is with one that's bigger than the one they're telling you about.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. You have to one-up them.
You still believe the earth is flat? Let me tell you about this particle accelerator in Switzerland. That is the way that I contend with conspiracy theorists.
Oh yeah.
So we are recapping what we learned, what we saw. I was able to be there. Mikey, one of the things that we saw, we'll kind of dive in and get started, but this is from Dave Williams, who is president of Bump Williams Consulting. Dave's great. Of course, Dave gave us all the authority to share this because he put it up on the screen and let everybody take a picture of it at the event. So here, he actually did share the slides as well for the attendees. So here, we're looking at shifts in momentum. And Mikey, you saw something here that you wanted to point out.
Yeah, I didn't attend. I wasn't able to go. I had to stay back and hold down the fort. But you sent this via Slack, I think, probably when you saw it. And I started looking at it. And I mean, most of these are not surprising, right? We already knew most of these trends and in the categories. But what stuck out to me the most was that almost all the green are high GP items. Almost everything trending positive is a high GP item. which is amazing to see that, because I mean, obviously that's the direction we want the category to go. We're trying to premiumize the category and make more profits. But yeah, it was just eye opening to see that, and almost everything with low GP is in the red. So it's good to see that shift, whether it's being done by reps, distributors, consumers, who knows where that shift is actually being driven from, but we are premiumizing the market and the category.
But part of it's organic, and this is what our clients have learned is that it's organic and you have more control over this than you think you do.
Yeah.
You can move your market faster than you think you can. And you can do things inside of these segments. And that's something we should do, Mike. He's like really show people some of the detailed stuff inside of like a below premium segment or a value or a premium domestic segment of like, where is there gaps and how can you actually nibble around the edges in there as well? So
Yeah. Yeah, instead of letting your eyes just, doom and gloom of negative trends in the premium market with all premium brands right now, shift some focus over to what is booming right now. And hey, you know what? Maybe I'm down a couple hundred cases with my premium light beer that we offer, but I'm up huge in RTDs, wine-based cocktails. What else is on here? FMBs, NA beer, right? I mean, we are making that up. Probably not volume to volume, apples to apples, but dollars to dollars, pretty damn close, I would imagine.
and the thing here is that like NA beer in response to last week's podcast talking about Surgeon General warning and all the no safe level of alcohol, that is part of the industry making its evolution towards new items that we didn't have 5 or 10 years ago. Well, we had all duals, but nobody cared about it. And, though they're moving the needle and they're evolving the category as suppliers to meet the demands of the consumer, not only in taste profile, but also in preferences of consumption and whether that be styles or packages, exactly what carbonated soft drinks did as well. So like this is the tip of the spear on seeing that evolution happen. And then to back up Dave's slide, one of the things that Harry put together and shared was, this beyond beer and a branded basis, instead of looking at it what Dave shared of a category basis, expanding beyond into the brand basis, that there's a lot of green across the board here. And two of the category's largest brands being Modelo and Ultra in that above premium segment are both growing and growing at a healthy clip for all of 2024 and will continue that growth into 2025, barring some marketing chaos in some way, shape, or form. But we've learned our lesson from that. So we are not prepared to do that again in 2025.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nice and it's healthy to see a slide full of green like this. A lot of these brands, not surprising, but just to see where the whole category is just shifting, flavor,
Mm-hmm.
flavor, outside of just traditional malt based beer, wanting more. I think the younger consumer for sure. And also to back up your point on the NA beer, when you think back 10, 15 years ago and you said, yeah, we had all duals. I mean, it was very rarely you saw anybody pick up an NA beer that wasn't at retirement age. Probably had some health issues, still like to have their cold beer at home. But now, I mean, that has shifted so much where you see so many young consumers not only purchasing but drinking at the bar NA products, and it's no big deal.
And there's one specific brand that's not on this list that really probably should be right here is, Ranger.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's called an IPA, but really is it?
yeah. I mean, we learned that was it 2 years ago at their national convention when they pulled up. They had some data around that, and it shocked everybody there. I think that was the talk of the convention, was that their Voodoo Ranger, they call it the Force line, right? So the Juice Force, Fruit Force, now Tropic Force, all that. That primary consumer is coming from FMBs, which is crazy because that's a 9.5% classified IPA, and to pull those consumers in from FMB, having that kind of crossover is just crazy. And I think rewinding I think that was about a year and a half ago now, actually. Back to that moment when that came out, we were all just shocked, but it made total sense.
100%. The other thing was on this is that there was a group of folks that were talking about wine and the wine and spirits conference and canned wine and beatbox. The beatbox crew was there, and the canned wine kind of cohort people were there. That whole segment of how people are looking to get wine in a new vessel was interesting to hear. Like that people are looking to drink wine, they're at a venue or they're at a space, and how it is. What would you call it? Like opportunity to share that beverage in a mobile environment is a really big win for that category too.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why beatbox was originally invented. When you go
Mm-hmm.
back to Shark Tank, I mean, the the people behind beatbox, I forget her name. But anyways, the founder, she was tired of going places and having a big wine bottle and wanted it in a more transportable container, right? Going out on the boat or going camping or doing whatever you're doing outside. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think cans, a lot of opportunity, a lot of room to
Yeah.
grow.
Well, if you were on the YouTube, you were able to see those. If you were not, then you couldn't see them. But we were sharing a couple charts. And now let's go into a couple other things that we learned too, Mikey. Constellation Brand CEO Bill Newlands was there, and he was targeting one of the things that jumped out at me is how much he's seeing spending pressure for consumers making under $50,000 annually as a household, so household income under 50,000. Their business marries up with that consumer really well. So we spent a lot of time, focusing on thinking about that consumer and talking to that consumer as well. Are you noticing anything like that with the consumer household income around 50 or less that you think is pulling back their spending or changing their spending habits drastically?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a few times, but like we said, I mean, beer, alcohol is just not a necessity. So when we're spending more at the grocery store, spending more going out to eat, I mean, that's probably the first thing that gets cut. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, with all the pinch that's been going on lately in the last few years, I'm sure it's taken the brunt of it.
Yep. Other Modelo, huge brand dominating. The other piece I was talking to a couple of wholesalers about Pacifico, and our clients internally that have Pacifico too are doing really well just as part of having that whole Constellation business. But, Corona, market saturation, really big brand, Modelo and healthy, Modelo growing, becoming a really big brand and really one of the largest brands in the either by dollars and by volume, however you want to look at it, really huge. And then Pacifico is like, it's not a redheaded stepchild. It's like, you've got a family of 3 kids. It's the third kid. You're not really paying attention to it, but it's doing really good. And all of a sudden it's got like a 32 or 33 on his ACT. And it's like, hey, he's not that dumb. But we're too distracted with the other two to pay attention. And I feel like Pacifico is in that wheelhouse and that
Yeah.
philosophy. And that it feels to me, looking at the number and what people are thinking about with Pacifico, is it almost feels like Ultra 2008. And you remember when we launched Ultra, it was like, is it a fad beer? Is it going to be something that's going to be around? I mean, Atkins is a fad. I mean, hell, even the Atkins diet guy died from his own thing. So, like,
Yeah. And we,
will that even be around 10 years from now or 20 years from now? Let
and we were
alone,
targeting fitness and active people to drink beer, which was like, right?
give me a break. Give me a break. But then in 2000, so launched in 2002, had a good 2002 and 2003, depending on when you actually pushed the brand out into the market. 2004 was like a really bad down year. It had that sophomore slump, and then it continued through five. And then in six, seven, and eight, it got back on its feet and it started to clip above. This is what I remember, started to clip above its numbers from launch. And it was like, huh, this is an interesting, relevant brand now. And it kind of feels like we're in that moment. And my prediction would be that Modelo continues to succeed and it gets to its market saturation point in the next 18 to 36 months. And then they move and they turn all of their focus and growth energy to Pacifico, the third act.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with you. I think you're spot on with that. They've been lining themselves up to do that for a few years now.
Mhm.
And I mean, that bright yellow can is it's iconic, right? When you see that, it's Pacifico, and I feel like some people really brands connect with lifestyles, right? You got Bush Light, outdoorsy. I like to go fishing and hunting and whatever, just be outdoors, right? You got Corona. I'd love to be by the beach and warm. We just have all of these different brands that really connect to lifestyles. And I feel like people are really going to connect with Pacifico. They're going to want something a little bit different in their hands of like, hey, I'm on to the next best thing. You guys are all drinking Modelo. Look at me. I have the new next best up and coming
Yeah.
thing, a lot like Ultra was.
Yep. Yep. 100% right. Molson Coors, Brian Ferrero, the president of sales of U.S. sales. He's great, by the way. Minnesota beer guy, drinking a beer on stage, like
Was he? Oh,
actually
I love it. That's awesome.
actually drinking a beer, not sipping it, not opening it
Great.
and like whiffing it and move
Hey,
like,
the
no,
beer
yeah,
guys, get up there.
yep. He talked about how the Molson Coors has retained 80% of their share gains across 2000 from what they gained in 2023. We see that makes sense. Yes, it's come down. What I want to share perspective here is like, yeah, it's come down, but the new baseline has been set. And we look at 3-month moving averages and 12-month moving averages a lot at VXP. And we want to see how that trend is doing long term. That what does it look like over a long historical run? And don't get yourself all balled up in what it's doing every single month. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's that long-term 18-month perspective and over 12-month and 3-month trends is going to get you to feel and see where the business is moving. Banquets moving, cultural rocket ship was the quote, with its Yellowstone and Cobra Kai connection as well. And then I didn't
Lifestyle
know,
beers, right? You're connecting the lifestyle with a beer brand.
you're perfectly right, aspirational
Yeah.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily aspire to be camping in the snow,
Why?
but some people do.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
We're gonna be out in the snow all weekend, and I am so looking forward to it.
Good luck. Have fun. Wear a helmet. Miller Lite turns 50 as well this year in 2025. So that is exciting for, I think, the brand at a minimum. And, the category will be celebrated as far as light premium beers. They're going to do like a specialty gold package. I've seen it, but I have a picture of it somewhere on my phone, but I couldn't
Like
find
a
it.
throwback package.
Yes. I
Nice.
don't even know if it's a throwback package. We'd have to look at, they'll tell us what it is or isn't. I know it's just trying to kind of call attention to that it's its 50th anniversary and 50th birthday. So
Yeah.
I think that'll be fun as well. And then, Brian talked a little bit about their innovation strategy, and, they bought a really, I think Harry put it as was the right way to put it, as cleaned up the capital structure and who owns what at Zoa Energy.
Hmm.
And now that Molson Coors owns the majority, I think they're going to spend a lot of time focusing on that Zoa Energy for their Molson Coors wholesalers, and really kind of actually like, maybe we can actually get The Rock to do something with it. Right.
Yep.
I've
I mean,
always
they've
found it
watched.
wild that he doesn't do anything with Zoa, which could be an infinitely larger brand than his tequila, like infinitely larger, and does nothing about Zoa.
Yeah.
He's no dummy. He's
And
no
you
dummy.
watched a lot of other brands over the past few years really go from nothing to something.
Yeah.
And Enzo was just sitting there.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And then Jim Cook, Boston Beer Company, founder and brewer, he was there as well. I love Jim's perspective on like the beer industry as a whole. Talked about the questions that came up around like, what do you think about the attacks of the industry, from No Safe Level? And he's like, beer's been around 10,000 years. I think it'll stick around for a while, which is 100% long-term viewpoint, like long-term vision for sure.
Yep.
He also talked about how the industry has done itself no service, particularly the brewers. He put this in the lap of the big brewers where they used to fund what would be the BI network of brewers. So AB, Molson Coors, Constellation would have been tiny then. It was basically just AB and Molson Coors were basically funding third-party independent research around the health and safety, good or bad or otherwise, on alcohol. And that was something August Bush III really kind of chaired and shepherded and pushed as the industry, and that nobody else has really picked up that baton or funded that level of research for the last decade. So now we're kind of dealing with a decade of research that has a different tilt
One-sided.
to it and clearly a different motive to it rather than transparency around it. He argued rather than transparency, good or bad, really trying to build a narrative of not being safe for you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
He also said something crazy too.
Well, let's hear it.
So, they did that relationship with Pepsi.
Yes.
Boston Beer did. And they did Hard Mountain Dew. And they've done a couple other things too with Pepsi, but Hard Mountain Dew is the one that everybody knows about. And that pissed a lot of wholesalers off too.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew that would happen. Like I don't know how much he said that publicly, but he's smart enough to know that would happen. And now that that's all cleaned up, he has said that in 5 years, Jim thinks that Hard Mountain Dew will be the most successful crossover product of all the crossover products once it's fully scaled up. And it's fully in his wholesalers and the Boston Beer network of wholesalers.
That raises a bigger question: Is Hard Mountain Dew still growing?
Oh, I don't think it's growing at all.
So
and there's a lot of places where they could sell it and then couldn't sell it because of some licensing issues that Blue Cloud created for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I guess we shall wait and see. Yeah. I mean, if you look back at it, how many crossover drinkers they have, maybe you could say that that's what made it the biggest crossover brand. But as far as like volume, I mean, it's just kind of one of those products. And I don't mean any disrespect to people any of our partners that carry it, but it's just kind of a one and done product.
What I just heard was that, Jim, it's nice to hear you're excited about having the tallest midget.
Yes, that's exactly what I said. Yeah, and what I mean by one and done is not like, hey, here it is today and gone tomorrow, but like the drinker, right? I mean, when it first came out, everybody's like, I have to try this. I remember being at gatherings and somebody would show up with some, and where the hell did you get that? I've never seen that before. Oh, I have to try one. But after that, you're not running back to the store to go grab another 12-pack.
What's the repeat? Repeat look like?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
What's a repeat? Not a soda guy, have no viewpoint on soda or pop because I'm just not that consumer. I know the Mountain Dew drinkers are loyalists though, are like they're Mountain Dew or nothing.
Yeah.
Like they'll drink, they don't even drink Coke or Pepsi. Like they would go to a store and be like, you don't even have Dew? I'm leaving now.
Yep.
Like I'm not even coming back again. Crazy. Then we had Simon Wustenberg from our Anheuser-Busch as well. He said something that I had forgotten about, and it's not necessarily forgotten about. These are all things that we should remember, but that the work they've done with Cutwater and Neutral and how big those brands are was off of M&A. Yeah. And that, they acquired those brands, and I hadn't thought about that in a long time, is that they acquired them. We're picking on them constantly for like fumbling the ball with Ghost right now, and which they did. Like everybody can realize that, and that's easy. And that they did fumble the ball with Ghost one way, shape, or form. I don't know how it happened. I've got a couple viewpoints about how it happened, that, they just messed around with it. They're not making enough money off of it. Who knows? But they fumbled the ball in some way, shape, or form. But new news, because we're doing this today, of course they've come out with do you think that this was happening already? But I'll say it and then we'll go there. New energy partnership with first, is it Fromm? Is that how you say that?
Is it Form? I think it's
Form.
Yeah.
Is it Flan or Fromm?
Huh?
I think it's a Pam situation.
Yeah, I think it's form
I
because
think it's
they are
form.
a supplement
This
company.
is why you don't let a dyslexic enunciate things. So, for partnership with First Form and Dana White, they're going back to the well with Dana White. When you give a man $100 million or something like that a year, he shows back up for you, right?
Well, yeah, maybe it's
So
going to repeat, right? You find
it's
the fountain of youth. You're not going to just take a bucket and not come back.
no kidding. So they're going to do something with First Form. There's more details about it. Mikey, what have you read about it? What do you think about it? All that good stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think a couple things. Well, to answer your first question, was this in the works? I think I was trying to find in the article because it just came out today. They've known each other. It says they met at a Cardinals game. Them being Sal from Form, who's the CEO, and Brendan from AB. They met a few years ago and kept in touch. So I'm sure this is probably something that's been on the back burner of like, hey, if something never happens, right? We got this to fall back on. But I can't help but wonder what's going to be different from Ghost as far as what we always say, here today, gone tomorrow, right? Are we just, is this our next $1 million brand builder? Are we just building another $1 million brand to
Oh, it's a
one day
billion.
lose?
Are we making our next billionaire?
Billionaire, yeah. Yeah. BBBs, man. We're all triple Bs.
Triple B.
$1 million brand builders. That's what
Tres
we are.
Comas. We are Tres Comas builders. For those of
Yes.
you who've watched, those of you who know that reference will giggle at it.
But yeah, so I just don't know. I mean, it doesn't sound like AB is going to have any interest in the company. It sounds like it's just a distribution agreement. I'm sure some more details will be coming soon, probably by the time that this recording is released. But still, I just as our partner, our distributor partners, I couldn't help but wonder what's going to be different, right? How long are we going to have it? We're going to do all this work. We're going to build this enormous brand, and one day it's just going to be gone.
Maybe it's third time the charm. Like, they didn't buy Monster when they had the chance. And like, imagine them buying Monster for the 18 or 19 bill that Coke did and it was only 20% of the company, but maintaining that into the network and how much that'd be worth now would be incredible. I mean, that would be paying dividends to them. Ghost, TBD, it's a political problem more than it is anything else. It's an economic problem for the wholesalers. It clearly isn't an economic wholesaler or problem for Anheuser-Busch. Otherwise, they'd be talking about it on their earnings calls about how it's going to be a shortfall and it's going to be negatively impacting them. So
Mm-hmm.
it clearly didn't hurt their P&L in any way, shape, or form. Too, it's probably budget dust. It's next to nothing. It doesn't really matter. Or the numbers could be big, but so small in comparison to their whole business that it's just dust. Maybe this is the third time. Maybe they finally get this right. Maybe they finally figure out that, like, hey, we want to play in the space. We got to get serious. And didn't they have at some point in time, I haven't heard this in a while, but then they have like Project 25. 25 is like 25% of their global revenue from non-alcoholic products by 2025.
Yeah. Yep. That was their goal.
Newsflash, we're here.
We're here. we we are here.
And they had these opportunities in this energy drink space. This is the third one now to get to that. And if they had bought Monster, they'd be a mile ahead of it. They'd be in a way different avenue. So that's the piece that's crazy on that
Yeah.
end. One more good one was Ty Gilmore from Tilray. I think you've met Ty before too. They've got over 700 wholesalers from their multiple brands that they carry because they bought for memory here, they bought all of the AB craft brands minus Golden Road, right?
Yep. Yep.
And they bought everything from Molson Coors. I don't think Molson Coors kept anything. So, they've got an opportunity.
And Sweetwater. They have Sweetwater too.
They have Sweetwater too. Yes. And they've got Sweetwater. So between those those are big national, multi-state, regional brewers, depending on how you slice and dice. All of ABs were national. Molson Coors, not every single one of them was national. But that comes with all these different footprints.
Mm-hmm.
They've got I think they've got the most wholesalers out of any one of the big brewers in terms of sheer numbers. They have to.
I'm sure they do, yeah, because they've just sliced and diced the pie in so many different ways, and there's probably so much overlap too, I'd imagine.
So they probably want to find some way to find some organic, consolidation. They also have a huge Delta 9 and, that CBD business. I think they do some CBD too, but a lot of Delta 9, they're connected to a food business as well outside of just the beverage space. So very
Yep.
interesting company to learn some more about.
They're
But he
the
kept
largest THC supplier in Canada, right?
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think they're the largest. I mean, that's where the bank flows from.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And then Ty kept talking about how they've got all these plans. Is like, our brand Shock Top, and we're going to do this with Shock Top and Revolver, and we're going to do this with Revolver. And as somebody who's been around these brands for a long time, it was just weird
Yeah.
hearing about those brands,
Right.
not
Yeah.
at Samcom and not at Molson Coors, annual convention. And it's just like, this is like an alternate universe for sure. If we
So
needed
you're
another
right.
reason to believe in my conspiracy theory,
Would you do a blog on that conspiracy? I'd like to read more about
I don't need to blog. You just post. You can just see what's out there. This is another reason why we are in the wrong time warp, or whatever we call it. I clearly
Yeah.
need to learn more about it too. Um, so overall, really good summit. A lot of learnings there. Those were my big takeaways. Mikey, any final thoughts?
it. I just reading on the BBD that was released, some notes on it too. I was reading through there. Sounded like cannabis came up quite a bit. Delta 9 came up quite a bit. Everybody kind of took their own stance on that, and gave some feedback of kind of where they're at. I did think that the AB Simon's response was probably was the best. That kind of chuckled. He's quoted as saying that at let's see, let me just find it here. Yeah, it just says that he pressed on how AB Brass feels about their wholesalers taking on Delta 9. AB Chief Sales Simon suggested that it's illegal, at least in some states. And that was basically where he left it. And said, moreover, all he can say is he wants to stay 100% focused on making sure that we're doing what's right for the category. And that he wants their wholesale partners to also be doing right for the category, which, I mean, basically is saying keep it out of your house, right? Don't bring it in. Let's focus 100% on alcohol and beer, and that's where all of our focus should be.
Yeah, for me, at the end of the day, we're gonna have a deeper discussion on this sometime later this year on the second point. So I'll leave that for that. But at the end of the day, these big brand owners, there's part of me that wonders, are they trying to position the network to not do it until they get their position around how they want to attack the market settled? And it's kind of like The Big Short. If anybody's watched that movie, where it's the Michael Burry is talking to the Goldman Sachs analysts and is calling him about his marks on his credit default swaps that he owns, and that mortgage collapse, like mortgage
Rates?
delinquencies are going up. So the bonds should be worthless, yet they are keeping them at the same price. And in the movie, Michael's assessment was that Goldman Sachs had no position short in credit default swaps in the mortgage space. Once they got their own position short, once they owned their own Delta 9 product, once they had a way that they wanted to attack the market, then they started talking to wholesalers about doing it. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until it was in their best interest to start to talk about this product and talk about this segment. And it is only up until that time where they will get focused on it. And I don't remember, I mean, I do remember enough about when we brought on Monster that was an economic interest of Anheuser-Busch to sell Monster. But if we had done it without their blessing, they probably would have been saying the same thing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. And as we know, the big two, sometimes are pretty slow to drag their feet in entering, especially a category like that. But anything new, especially one, I won't call out the one, has been kind of behind the ball when it comes to new innovation, more following with some stuff. So, I mean, as a distributor, I would not want to be passing up on some what could be big brands that are coming my way in hopes of one day having, my closest or my biggest supplier partner having a brand. And even in AB shoes too, when you look at that too, and what he said, exactly. I mean, I don't want to come into a house or come into a distributor that already has a very large, powerful Delta 9 brand. And now I'm pitching to them why my shock top is better than, whatever we're competing against. But yeah, I see both sides. It's going to be a wild ride and interesting how it all shakes out for sure.
Some of the wholesalers out there, they fall into a couple camps. They see a big vision and a long-term opportunity with this product segment, or they're like, hey, this is too attractive economically to pass up, and
Yep.
we have to take advantage of it. And if we were still running Atlas, we'd be taking on these opportunities for sure,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we'd want to. I don't know if it would be a need. It would be a pretty close to a need. It would be definitely a want. It'd be pretty damn close to a need, knowing our business. I would have been advocating, like, you want to get ahead of it now, because you don't know what's going to happen. And you don't know who's going to win. And the next thing you know, you let them all pass you by. Anheuser-Busch, Molson Coors, Constellation, whoever you're partnering with, goes out and buys one of these suckers, and something you could have gotten for free and have been building all along, now you have to go buy or have to somehow watch somebody else sell. Like, we've seen this rodeo too many times
Yep.
to not know that, like, hey, maybe I should do what's in my best interest, which is what I'm genetically engineered to do, and that's okay. And our partners are going to say what's in their best interest, which they're genetically engineered to do, and it's okay if we don't feel the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point.
It's back to the 95-5. We keep saying it, a couple times on pod. It's okay. We're going to agree on 95% of the time. We're going to disagree on 5%, and that's okay. That's normal. But let's focus on the 95.
Yep. Good point. Good stuff.
And the 95% is that we are living in the wrong time universe.
I think we've established that today. I know what my internet searches will be revolving around tonight.
You can do more research. We can revisit where my gaps are in my knowledge about this.
Yeah, gaps in the matrix.
Well, good podcast. Mikey fought through a couple technical difficulties, but nobody will know about, because this will be cleanly edited. If you find a weird edit point, just know that it's because it was a technical difficulty that I didn't see. So, and thanks for Harry and Millicent for putting and the rest of the BBD and Wine and Spirits Summit crew for putting it on. There's a ton of effort that goes into putting on the summit, and it's always fun. It's always really well done. So thanks for having me. Thanks for having us as a group. And Mikey, until next week, my man. Well, until tomorrow. We're going to see each other tomorrow. So,
yep.
Cheers.